Wow. Cynic, Veil of Maya. I'll have to look up quick where, which album this song landed on. Interesting. My first, overwhelming thought in hearing this that I took away from this song is there's like a super clear dynamic between swinging between prog music, prog metal, and like classic thrash metal. And I've heard a handful of Cynic songs. A friend of mine is really big into Cynic, and the uniqueness and the tracks that I liked just kind of offhandedly pulled me into testing out something Cynic. And I think I landed on a top 10 ranked list, and this was number one on this article's list. So it's probably in the one spot. Might be a fan favorite going back to the beginning of their catalog. Yeah, really like swinging back and forth. Specifically this song, I don't know if it's always this black and white, but there's a pendulum between these dreamy prog parts and these heavy pounding pummeling thrash parts, and that's pretty unique and cool. When I was reading up on a little bit of Cynic the other day, that was obviously a known trait of the band, their meshing of prog metal classic tendencies and thrash metal classic tendencies, and then ending up with this unique sound, especially the lead singer's vocoder machine, or the talk box, whatever he's using. Paul Masvidal, I think, reading a celebrated frontman, a celebrated kind of forward-thinking artist, a sound that isn't too prevalent in this genre. An American progressive metal band formed in Florida in 1987, incorporating elements of prog rock, alternative, and metal. I printed out a few sheets from their Wikipedia when I was reading the other day. First album, Focused, 1993. Disbanded in 94, reunited in 06, and then released some albums in the early to mid 2000s. Really cool. The mix on this is really like dirty and underground and kind of tasty. I started to get into some bands that had tendencies of this later in high school, kind of, when the palette starts to expand as a teen. I remember really appreciating Tool's Undertow later in high school. You go down the rabbit hole enough, you land on Green Jelly, Maynard James Keenan, and Danny Carey's original project together. You can talk about Primus in that same conversation. Just like a dirty, squealy kind of choice mix there that I think in this case specifically lends itself to this song. The drum work really blew me away too. The cymbal taps and the flaming on the snare at the 145 section, I jotted down, reminded me of Alice in Chains' No Excuses. Just the feel there reminded me of that. But again, you're swinging in between those dreamy technical prog parts into pummeling thrash metal. So I wrote down Cemetery Gates by Pantera. There's a midsection or a couple windows of instrumental there that get really dreamy with your screechy dime bag tone guitar there. And so there's a lot going on here. There's kind of a lot to unpack if you really strip this down and think of all the amalgamation factors that are put into this. I would love to know where this song lands for you in Cynic's catalog. I think Cynic is, from my understanding, a pretty popular band, but a band that still maintains a pretty underground kind of cult following. The mentioning of Cynic that I've seen in the metal world is kind of few and far between, but when you uncover that underground audience, it's like, oh yeah, dude, Cynic is freaking awesome. So I would love to hear more, and especially venture later into the catalog and see how this band has progressed their sound. I see founding drummer passed away 48 January 2022 or January 2020, and the bass player passed away only 11 months later. So I'm not sure if this band is technically still active, but I have here musical style jotted down in their Wikipedia form. Dom Lawson of Metal Hammer describes Cynic's music as fervently progressive and otherworldly. The band's early recordings feature a more punk rock, thrash metal, and hardcore punk sound. Okay, gotcha. But in the 90s, changed their sound towards a highly complex, experimental, and extremely technical form of prog metal, while still retaining their death metal roots. Their 1990 demo displays a hyper-technical form of death thrash, and the following 91 Roadrunner demo bears a notable resemblance to death and jazz death metal pioneers Atheist, featuring 2 songs from Focus in cruder, more brutal form. More influences from jazz rock, fusion can be heard on their debut album. Focus has both growls, robotic vocals, using a vocoder. Okay, gotcha. The offshoot Portal later released a demo recording that continues even further in the direction of progressive space rock, refining and softening up their sound. Yeah, so my kind of entrance to Cynic, I can't remember the songs. I think one of the songs I've heard that I actually remember the title of, I think it may have been like The Lion's Roar. And if I'm reading space rock, I can definitely connect the dots on that one. Cynic's 2008 album Traced in Air fused the styles and influences heard on 93's Focus with the more progressive-oriented Portal approach. The result had Cynic put less emphasis on its extreme metal elements and new guttural vocalist Timon Crudenier playing a smaller role than Tony Teagarden did on Focus. Additionally, Paul Masvidal all but abandoned his vocoder robotic vocals, opting instead for a more natural singing voice with a subtler, almost although noticeable vocoder layer that increases an octave in his voice. Noting the band's musical progression, New York Times proclaimed in a positive review of Traced in Air that Cynic should be understood not so much alongside any metal bands, but along with the radical harmonic progressives in the last 45 years of pop and jazz. Composers like Milton Nascimento, the Beach Boys, or Pat Metheny. Super interesting. I mean, I enjoyed this first entry. I'm curious to continue to venture down into their catalog as their catalog progresses and get a good mix of songs in down the road from them. Overall, yeah, really enjoyed this one. Let me know where this lands for you in your favorites in their catalog. Shoot me some Cynic recommendations down in the chat. Maybe a mix or two of favorites or deep cuts from throughout their catalog. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you feel so inclined. And hey, I'll see you in the freaking next one.